Welcome back to Animal Appreciation. This week we are talking about wild dogs. So, I have already done a previous Animal Appreciation video on foxes, so there are going to be no foxes in this video. If you want to listen to me talk about foxes, go find the other one. There's not going to be foxes here. Starting off, we have my all-time favorite dog species and one of my all-time favorite animals, the African wild dog or the African painted dog. They were the topic of, I think, my third, fourth, something around those endangered species spotlight, and they live in a bunch of areas of sub-Saharan Africa, so around like Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Botswana, so a bunch of areas in Africa, and they are one of the prettiest dog species, and I think they're just so cool. Next up, we have the coyote. They get a lot of hate, and I don't know, they get too much hate for no reason. They live pretty much everywhere in North America, all through like Canada, down through United States, down to Mexico. They live pretty much everywhere, and lots of people give them hate for like getting places they shouldn't, being a pest, being like, oh, my cat got eaten by a coyote. Like, well, maybe your cat shouldn't have been outside. But they get a lot of hate, and not all of it is deserved, and I really like them. I see them all around at my mom's house. Personally have never had a problem with them. They're kind of chickens, but yeah, I do really like coyotes. Next we have what is essentially the African equivalent of the coyote, the jackal. Now there's actually 3 species of jackal living in Africa. This one in specific is the black-backed, also known as the silver-backed jackal, which is my favorite out of the 3. Again, the 3 species are pretty widely distributed largely across the entire continent of Africa in different population spots, so they're pretty common there. Hopping over to Australia now, we have the dingo, and interestingly, the dingo is not native to Australia technically. It did not evolve there. It was brought over to Australia by early settlers, so not super early, but between 10,000 and 5,000 years ago, so still a significant length of time ago, but they're not like native to Australia, which I think is interesting. People also tend to get them confused with feral domestic dogs, especially tourists in Australia. These guys are not domesticated. They are not domestic dogs. They are wild dogs. So if you're in Australia and you see a dog, make sure it's not a dingo. Don't go pet it. This is the maned wolf, another feature in Endangered Species Spotlight. These guys are from South and Central America, so they live in a bunch of areas of Brazil and Argentina, as well as places in Paraguay and Peru, and lots of people think that these are just really weird wolves, and they're called the maned wolves, but they aren't actually related to true wolves. They are still canines, but they're not related to wolves. This is the dhole. They're a type of wild canine that is native to a bunch of areas in Southeast Asia, so around Malaysia, India, I almost said Peru, that's in South America, as well as up into northern parts like Siberia. We also have wolves, which are found in quite a few areas, a bunch of places in North and South America, as well as Europe and Asia. There's a bunch of species of wolves. There's the gray wolves, there's the red wolves, which featured in another endangered species spotlight. There's also a decent number of gray wolf subspecies, such as the Arctic wolves or the timber wolves, but yeah, there's quite a few bits of wolves. I just kind of included wolf because there's a lot of species. This incredibly cylindrical creature is the bush dog that lives in a bunch of areas of South America, largely in the Amazon. And my dude sure is shaped. I love the shape, but it is definitely shaped. This is the Culpio. It is another South American canid. It lives in a bunch of areas of Ecuador, Peru, all that. And it is sometimes lumped in with the foxes. However, it's not a true fox, so that's why we're including it here. So while it looks like a fox and while people do tend to call it a fox, it isn't actually. And finally, we have the raccoon dog, also known as the tanuki. It is native to a bunch of areas in East Asia, so mainly China, Japan, Korea, and it's not a raccoon, even though it looks like a raccoon with the eyes and all that. So that's where it gets its name from, because it does look like a raccoon. It is a dog, though. It is related to other canines, and it is very, very cute.